I start off this no-killing journey by almost causing this cop to crash and going way over the speed limit, because who's going to stop me? I'm Batman. I then get to Arkham Asylum. I'm here to drop off the Joker. I usually just leave him here and then go back to doing whatever an orphan who dresses up in a bat costume does for fun. But this time, I decide to stay. We make our way through the asylum, and after failing the special metal detector, we find this big crocodile. Why he's in a mental hospital and not in my kitchen being made into a steak is anyone's guess. We leave the big boy and continue on until we meet up with Commissioner Gordon. While him and I are busy talking, Joker manages to break free, somehow. So I rush in, face first, hoping to stop him. I'm too late, so I'm forced to give his goons permanent brain damage instead of him. Once I finish up with them, I head after Joker. While I'm doing that, I find these guards who tell me that a criminal called Victor Zsasz is holding their friend at knife point. Fun fact, or maybe not so fun depending on how you view it, Zsasz has killed over 100 people, including children. You may think he deserves to die, but killing a mass murderer is just immoral, and head slamming him into the ground so that they're still alive to kill again is obviously the smarter thing to do. I then get a video call from Harley Quinn, who tells me that she is holding the warden of the asylum hostage. Like I'm supposed to care or something. I ignore her distraction and continue after Joker, eventually finding myself at this room full of toxic gas. I rescue these people who somehow got like 15 feet in the air and find Joker. He sends his brood after me, and after it hit me a bunch, it just dies. I'm then given the opportunity to kill Joker. I ignore it, because why would I kill one person and save thousands of lives? That would just be wrong, and turn me into a murderer. After letting Joker escape, I watch a video showing Gordon getting knocked out by a corrupt cop called Frank Bowles. I go to his office, and since Frank is a heavy drinker, not unlike myself, I can follow his whiskey trail. While following it, I end up in this room. I suffocate all the guards until they pass out and find Bowles, who has me killed. While I'm examining his body, no homo of course, some guards come into the room. In order to switch things up a bit, I decide to give them head trauma instead of the classic cut off air circulation. I continued on and eventually made my way outside. I then got a notification that someone was attacking the Batmobile. I went to the car, and after doing just a tad bit of beating up, got my highly advanced explosive gel out of my trunk. I personally leave mine in my glove compartment, but to each their own. Gordon had been dragged past here, so I looked for clues on how to track him. He wasn't a heavy drinker like Bowles, however he was a heavy smoker, so I was able to track the tobacco that he had on him. I follow the tobacco trail, which leads me to this big building. And after a bit of roughhousing, I find Harley Quinn. Jim was here as well, he just gets camera shy. The way to Jim was blocked by a laser grid, so I looked for another way around. I did this because I couldn't bear to think about Jim being locked up in there. That, and because the game was literally forcing me to. I found this ultra-secret entrance, and made my way through the building until I found this room where some doctors were being held captive. I took out their captors and spoke to the doctors. This woman told me that their friends were just as incompetent as they were, and had gotten captured, so I went off to free them. I found the first surrounded by some armed thugs. There were a lot of them, but thankfully they weren't too bright and decided to stand near some very breakable walls. I found the second doctor strapped into this chair. Seems a bit weird, but whatever you're into, I guess. He wasn't in there for arousal, it would turn out. Instead, as bait. I took out the trap setters without breaking a sweat, and found the third doctor in some poisonous gas. An officer named Cash was there as well. I turned on the AC and cleared the room of gas. After ignoring Officer Cash's very legitimate questions, I went back to the doctors from earlier. While I was conversing with them, some more of Joker's men showed up. I use the term men loosely, because with how I took them out, they might as well have been fetuses. I rode this elevator and found the Scarecrow killing some doctors. I left them to die and found Gordon, who was also dead. Rest in peace and all that good stuff. I then went into this morgue, which told me what I get told at home all the time. I did as the strange voices commanded, and found another room. In there was my dead dad, my dead mom, and the Scarecrow, who had one heck of a growth spurt. Thankfully, shining the bat symbol on him made him disappear like he was 1 in 4 American dads. I left the morgue, and it turns out that Gordon wasn't actually dead. It was just a dead guard. Last time I smoked gas station weed. Anyways, I made my way into this room and found Gordon. Joker said that Harley Quinn would kill him if any of his men spotted me. So, I made sure that when I took them out, they didn't see me. I freed Gordon and found this man with some tubes in him. This man was Bane. He mentioned Dr. Young, who's one of the doctors I saved a couple of lines back, and then he injected himself with steroids while we were talking. Kind of rude if you ask me. He tried to punch me, so I punched back, but that did absolutely nothing. He then brought me into this room. I forced him to run into walls, cut his special tubing, and dropped an entire room on his head. However, that still wasn't enough to stop the madman. What was enough was me running him over with the Batmobile and sending him to the ocean floor. But don't worry, he isn't dead. I then forced Gordon to leave the island and started my way to the Batcave to do some research on Dr. Young. And by research, I mean stalking her Instagram and checking her KD on Call of Duty. Only 0.2, I don't know what I expected from a woman gamer. While I was going to the Batcave, I started thinking, how many calories does Batman burn per night? He does a lot of running and punching, and I don't ever see him sit down, so that's probably a couple thousand. How does he replenish those burned calories? I personally could never be Batman. Not because I don't know martial arts or because I'm not a billionaire, because I would have to have a snack break every 3 hours, and while I'm on said snack break, an orphanage would get blown up. I made my way to this cave, and after getting to the highest point, flew into my secret entrance. Or glided if you want to get technical. I looked at the new phone recognition software, and made my way into the Batcave. I got my clothes wet, totally on purpose fell down here, and went on the Batcomputer. It turns out that Dr. Young was working on a formula that would allow Joker to create an army of Banes, maybe even ones that could swim. Too soon? That was bad, so I went off to look for her. I got a cool new gadget and went to the sewers. After passing a big lizard, I came into this room. Using my grappling gun wasn't an option, since these towers were built when you could go down to the local supermarket and buy manual labor. I rock climbed my way out of there until I got to the surface, where there were some trick shotters waiting for me. Thankfully for me, they wouldn't be going to face anytime soon. I made my way into this mansion, where I found some guards discussing their plans for when they got out of Arkham Asylum. They were almost too wholesome to beat up. Almost. Joker had captured Young, and promised a reward for whoever found her research. In order to ensure that it was me who got said reward, I beat up all the other participants. While I was looking for the secret paper, I accidentally discovered these 2 hostages. The way to them was once again blocked by a security grid, so had to cut down the chandelier in order to save them. Do you think that's covered under property insurance? I freed them, but they were about as useful as Jason Todd. So, not at all. I quickly left them and found Officer Cash, who once again needed me to save him. How he made it this long without me is honestly a mystery. I took out the guards and freed Cash, who actually gave me some useful information. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I made my way into Dr. Young's office, where I saw that she had already taken the notes. I scanned her fingerprints and followed the trio into the library from earlier. I found the notes, and after I didn't get the special reward, pulled a Fahrenheit 451. Joker then called and told me that Zaz was holding Young hostage, so I left to save her. And then it started raining. Well, indoors. I walked in the rain for a while until I found my dead parents. And then out of nowhere, Scarecrow showed up. I beat up some Minecraft skeletons, did some parkour, and burned his retinas until he disappeared. I then woke up in this clock tower. I left there and found Young and Zaz. After I threw a sharp piece of metal right at his head and didn't kill him, the doctor told me that Joker had a secret lab in the botanical gardens. The way to there was blocked, so she went to go get me the codes, but there was a big explosion. I was fine, thankfully. Her, not so much. The only other person who would have the codes would be the warden of the asylum, so I would have to find him. which will have to happen in the next episode. If you liked the video, leave a like to help it out. And if you like my content, you should subscribe, so you always see when I upload. Thank you for watching, and God bless.